Little silver bell, little silver bell, little silver bell, little silver bell.
It may have been Christmas everywhere, but this was Steve's house. Steve Morgan, 72-year-old retired electrician, lived all alone and spent most of his time watching television and complaining about what's on television. One cold evening in late December, he found himself nagging the television while eating his usual evening giant cheese sandwich. Scrooge and a Christmas Carol. How many versions of that boring story must there be? It's the same every Christmas time. Steve was just about to channel hop yet again when the doorbell rang. He knew who his caller would be. Oh, that's that pest of a brother of mine. It's Tuesday again. He'll be trying to talk me into joining his men in sheds nonsense again, no doubt. Steve wearily opened his front door, and his brother Jack's grinning face greeted him in the doorway. I told you I don't want to go to your soppy old men in sheds. Come on, it's only just a walk around the corner. What harm could it do? Take a look, just see what it's like. Why would I waste my time fiddling around in a shed? Well, it's just that we have every kind of trade represented, but we haven't an electrician. And you could enjoy joining in with us. I'm a retired electrician. 50 years was enough for me. I don't even know where my old toolbox is, and I don't want to. You go on and enjoy yourself with those silly old retired tradesmen. I'm quite happy right here, thank you. Steve began to close the door on Jack, but Jack pushed it open again. Jack couldn't resist a jibe. And a Merry Christmas to you, Mr. Scrooge. Watch out for those 3 Christmas spirits, Jack joked as he walked off. Scrooge again. Can't get away from Scrooge, ranted Steve. He returned to the comfort of his armchair and his cheese sandwich and perused his TV guide, searching to find a program that was not about Christmas. See if I can find a western. Oh, good, there is one. He pressed his remote and sighed contentedly as he heard a stirring western theme. But his mood quickly changed with what the television next intoned. Scrooge was a grumpy old man, and as he left the corral, he holstered his 6-shooter and spurred his horse into a gallop. Steve pointed the remote at the screen, cutting off the western and turning off the TV. Scrooge? A western Scrooge? What next? Oh, I'm so tired of Scrooge and a Christmas Carol. I really had enough. He yawned and sank back into his chair, placing the open TV magazine over his face. He really had had enough, and suddenly felt very, very tired, and had just nodded off when the loud tinkle of a bell woke him. A light from the TV lit up the room. A Happy Christmas song played. Steve heard a cheerful voice cry, "A Merry Christmas, Mr. Scrooge!" Steve sat upright in his chair, causing the magazine to fly into the air. Oh, no more Scrooge. He pointed the remote at the TV and pressed dramatically, but the TV stayed on and the voice continued. I said, "A Merry Christmas, Mr. Scrooge," or should I say, Steve? I am the spirit of Christmas past, your Christmas past, and you can't switch me off. I will stay until I've had my say. Steve was stunned and sat open-mouthed, staring at the TV. Remember this? Announced the spirit. The TV screen flickered and displayed a living room with a man standing beside a Christmas tree. Steve watched as the man reached up to the top of the tree and rang the tiny bell hanging there. Time to open presents, the man announced. Recognize anyone? The spirit continued. Steve became excited. Here, that's my dad of many years ago. Oh, and that's my brother Jack. Oh, and that's me. Hold on. You are me, spirit, when I was 12. What does all this mean? Never forget what's under the tree. That's what it means. What do you mean by that? Talk some sense. Steve watched his 12-year-old self on the screen, holding up an open present. A toolbox. "It's a toolbox! A real toolbox!" he heard his 12-year-old self cry. Then suddenly, Steve found himself awakening in his chair, with a magazine still over his face. He removed the magazine, which had been resting on his nose. The TV was off, and the room was silent. He'd been asleep the whole time. He'd been dreaming all along. "Whoa, no more late-night cheese sandwiches for me. They give me nightmares. I'm going to bed." In no time at all, Steve was in bed, fast asleep, but not for long. And there, in the fireplace, in a heap, was Father Christmas, clutching his present bag. "Whoa, this isn't the first time I've fallen down a chimney," Father Christmas cried. "But what am I doing here? Why have I been sent? This is 5 days too early. I know I'm supposed to be the ghost of your Christmas present," holding up his sack and shaking it at Steve. "Christmas present, get it? Oh, never mind. Please yourself. You do have a Christmas tree, don't you? Who's going to tinkle the bell? Someone always used to tinkle a bell. My Christmas tree is in the attic. It's been there for 10 years and will continue to be until I get around to throwing it away. Oh, what am I doing talking to an imaginary person, to Father Christmas? He doesn't exist." "I don't exist? You are still on my naughty list. I'm going. I have a very busy day coming up. Just remember, look for your magic under the tree. And a merry—" Oh, never mind. There was a flash and a sound of a tinkling bell, and Father Christmas disappeared, leaving a shower of silver, sparkly dust. Steve pinched his cheek dramatically. "I'm supposed to wake up if I do this. Ow, that hurt." In desperation, Steve threw his duvet over his face. "Please let me alone and let me get some sleep." It wasn't long before Steve had drifted off into dreamless sleep. Once again, however, he was awakened by a ringing bell, and he could hear jolly Christmas music playing. The music was coming from his mobile phone. The alarm had gone off. He reached wearily over to his mobile on his bedside table and peered at the screen. A hard sell advert was being narrated by a hard sell voiceover man. "Great knockdown prices. Scrooge, space pilot of the future action figures at giveaway prices at Marley supermarkets everywhere." Steve rubbed his eyes, trying to focus on what he was reading. 8:30 already? He yelled into his mobile. "No more Scrooge! No more Scrooge!" Steve looked stunned at his mobile as he saw a hooded figure pointing at him. "Stephen Scrooge, I am the spirit of your Christmas future. Heed my warning." Steve continued to tap the phone frantically. "Go away, go away! Oh, how do I turn this blasted thing off?" But the spirit did not go away and continued. "If you do not change, you'll end up a miserable old—" Steve heard no more, for he threw the mobile across the room. He pulled his duvet over his head and yelled in exasperation, "Oh!" and he sank back onto the pillow. But the mobile rang again, still playing a Christmas melody. Steve threw off the duvet, sat up, and reached to pick up his mobile, which was now lying on his side table. He switched it off and looked at it in wonder in his hand. "I just turned this off and threw it on the floor. I really must have been dreaming." He checked his watch. "Well, it is time to get up." He composed himself. 3 spirits have visited me, just like they did the original Scrooge. I am now a changed man. I have learnt my lesson. I suppose I would believe that I had a supernatural experience if I was one of those silly old men that men in sheds. But I have learnt a valuable lesson. No more late-night cheese sandwiches. They just give me blasted nightmares. Now, back to reality. Reality was heralded by Steve's front door bell ringing. Oh, I bet that's my brother again. Sure enough, it was Jack, bright and early, but not his usual cheerful self. Oh, I'm really sorry to bother you this early, but it's an emergency. As long as you know I'm not going to men in sheds. No, I've given up on that, I promise. What is it then? Well, last night, all the fuses blew in the shed, and we have no electricity. And before you say I haven't got my toolbox, we don't need you as an electrician. No, we need your tree in the attic. We melted ours, and it's too late to buy a new one. We will make do with just candles. Yeah, it will be very Christmassy. Christmassy. All right, I suppose you can come in. Steve and Jack made their way to the dusty old attic, where they surveyed the bric-a-brac piled there. Steve pointed to a dark corner. Oh, there's your silly old tree. Jack was very pleased to note that the tree was still all in one piece. There it is. Oh, takes you back, eh, Steve? You're lucky it's still there. I keep meaning to throw it out. Jack reached up and grabbed the only decoration on the tree, a silver bell. Hey, remember? Dad always rang the bell to signal present opening time. Jack shook the bell, but there was no sound. Oh, the clapper's gone. It won't ring any more. I just forgot to throw it out. How could you throw it out, you old Scrooge? Haven't you any sentiment? No, it belongs to the past, along with all this other rubbish. They were interrupted by Jack's mobile ringing. Hello? Oh, yeah, we have the tree. All it needs is a clean-up and we're... What? Huh? Oh, no. I suppose the party's over then. Jack hung up and turned to Steve with a sad look on his face. Health and safety rules. We can't have candles. It's a fire risk. The party's off. It's too late to find an electrician, and you couldn't help us even if you wanted to without your toolbox. I'll just go home, I think. Steve then heard the same tinkle of the bell that he had heard during the night. He turned to Jack. What was that? Did you do that? Do what? A bell tinkled. Don't be silly. What bell? That bell. There it goes again. If you can really hear a bell, although this one's clearly broken, we'd better check under the tree to see what presents Dad has got us, eh? Come on. Jack lifted up the bottom branches of the tree and, to his amazement, discovered a toolbox. My toolbox? My long-lost toolbox. It's been under the tree for all that time. And now it's going to be a Christmas present once again, after all these years. Well, I have no excuses about not helping out now, have I? The next day there was an air of excitement at Men in Sheds, with the members all gathered together. Steve had put his toolbox to work, and the Christmas tree was brilliantly lit. The Men in Sheds gang could have their party after all. Jack raised his glass. Here's to my brother, Steve Morgan, saviour of our party, and kind donator of our glorious Christmas tree, and more excitedly, a new valued member of Men in Sheds. Steve Morgan, everyone. The Men in Sheds all raised their glasses on high. Steve Morgan, they boomed. Steve was now beaming with joy. He had done a good job for his new friends. He was also secretly relieved to not be stuck in front of that TV for another night all alone. But he wasn't ready to admit that out loud to his brother, not just yet. Jack had been right all along. For now, Steve conceded with, Merry Christmas, Jack. Merry Christmas, brother, Jack exclaimed. Jack was pleased that Men in Sheds finally had a new member after all his persuading. A Christmas tree had solved everything. Steve, standing by the Christmas tree, suddenly heard a bell tinkle loudly. He reached up to the top of the tree, took the bell down, and shook it vigorously, to complete silence. He looked around, and to his astonishment he saw the 3 Christmas spirits peering in through the shed window, all smiling. He quickly rushed to the shed door, opened it to look outside for the spirits. But where the 3 ghosts were standing, there was no one. Steve smiled to himself and closed the shed door to return to the party and all his new friends. And you know what? That magic silver bell was never heard again. Ho ho! Or was it? Ho 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 ho!
Little silver bell on the Christmas.
Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year.
Merry Christmas to all the children and all the men in sheds.
Merry Christmas. You shine for me.
Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year.
Merry Christmas.
I've been told I've got to say Happy Christmas and a great New Year, especially to any of my fans that are watching on this auspicious occasion. I thank
Little
you.
silver bell, what a tale we tell of each Christmas we knew so well. Little silver bell.